what I do is extrude back and scale up and out, and then keep extruding back down the throat, just to about midway down the throat. And that's what I call the mouth sac. So let's work on that. Let's see what we can do with that. I'm first going to go to my character modeling screen layout that I created some time ago. And I think I want to go to the side view over here so we can see this a little better. So I'm going to press the E key and just move this back just a little. Just keep it right in line here. And then extrude again. And now as I pull back a little, I'll also scale up some, as well as pull out a bit. I think I'm going to begin flattening these up a little bit in the y-axis here, and maybe even begin pulling some points around here. If you don't fix things right up front as you're going, they can, or extruding can really just compound the problem as you go. So I'll just fix these now. Okay, let's keep going. So another extrusion here, and I'm going to scale up a bit, and maybe even scale out a bit as well, just a little, and also move that out some. And then I'm going to scale again and flatten just a bit in the y-axis here. And I think I'm ready to extrude again. So extrude out. And same thing applies. I'm going to scale up a bit. Flatten just a bit. And do some point pulling over here in the front view. Alright, and let's keep on moving here. So I think now this is going to be kind of the peak of the size of the mouth right around here. And then I'll begin scaling it back down as I move toward the throat here. So I think I'll scale it up just a bit here. Get this a little more in line. Alright, so as I begin scaling back now, I'm going to begin scaling down some. So scaling down as I move back toward the neck. Lining everything up here. And here's where I'll begin curving it. So I'm going to rotate it just a bit here. And extrude down a hair. Rotate again, maybe move in, and extrude again to turn it down the neck like that. Alright, so the tongue is going to extrude out of the bottom here. Say maybe out of these faces here, we'll extrude the tongue up and forward along here. So for that I'm going to go to face mode. And I'm going to select these 4 faces that I have down here on the bottom. And I'm going to hit extrude and pull that up just a bit. I can flatten this out a little. Maybe even scale it in some. Okay, so let's extrude again. And this time I'm going to move it forward and rotate it a bit. Like so. And maybe give it a little more thickness here. And then extrude one more time. Now for this one I'm really going to need to scale it down quite a bit. Move it in some. And then I think I'll do a little bit of adjusting here. I think this can come down some. And just kind of move it around to get the right shape that you want. I think think I'm going to go back to my default screen layout and go to wireframe just to try and work on this. So I'm just going to do some point pulling to try and get the shape the way I want. So this is the shape I've kind of come up with for the tongue. And the last thing I need to do for this part is just to check the lips and make sure that they're not horribly skinny, just like this. They can get horribly skinny if you're not careful here. So I'm going to take these, select that edge in back there and kind of move it out and do the same with this. Just kind of give some thickness to the lips there. And lastly, I think I'll just select this tongue and move it down just a bit. I think it's up a little too high. So just select this piece and move it down some. And there we go. Now we have the mouth and the tongue. The next thing we're going to work on is the teeth. See you then. Hi, this is Darren Lyle. Well, we've already finished the inside of the mouth and the tongue. I guess what we should do is work on the teeth now. The teeth are really just cubes that we kind of shape and place into the mouth. A lot of cartoon characters have just kind of half cylinders that's put up into the top and bottom of the mouth. But we're actually going to create individual teeth. But to do that, we really need the gums. We need to be able to place the teeth into the gums. So let's take a look first at how we might create the gums. For this character though, you know what might be easier is if we were to separate out the mouth from the rest of the body. Then we'd have a little more wiggle room, I guess, to work. So what let's do is let's take a look up into the body here, and I'm going to select that row of faces and use Control Plus to bring that selection up, and I want to bring it right up to the back of the lips here. Now that we have that inner mouth selected, what I want to do is split it off. So I think I'll just press the P key and separate it by the selection right here. Now that should be a whole other piece. Let's take a look. If I go inside here and select that, that is indeed a whole other piece. So now I should be able to press Shift H and hide everything but the inside of the mouth. Alright, so that's good. The gums, I think, should be these faces here. Let's take a look at this. Or maybe this selection of faces here on the top, as well as this selection of faces on the bottom. Now if I go to my side view here and I extrude, and I immediately go then to my scale tool, I'm going to scale these in the Z so they move down and up towards each other and begin to flatten out. The reason why I'm doing this, why I'm pulling them together, is to flatten them out. I don't want them to actually touch, because then I wouldn't be able to select individually the top or the bottom. So now that I've got that, I need to come back and just select the top and then pull that back up just a hair, like so. And now I need to select the bottom and do the same, pull that back down, like so. Now we've got the gums for the top and the bottom. The problem is we can't see the gums. We need to insert the teeth into there, but we can't see what's happening. So what I need to do actually is just delete this row of faces. And you may be thinking, well, if you delete that row of faces, how are you going to connect the mouth back up with the head? Well, ultimately what I'll do is simply combine the two objects again, or join them, and then bridge the two edges back together. So actually it's going to be fairly easy. So I'll just delete these faces, and now we can see the gum the way we've created them here. And now we can insert the teeth into them. I'm going to grab this and just move this up and over just a bit. Okay, so there are our gums. And now let's start working on the teeth. So the first thing I want to do is make the front incisor, the large tooth in the middle on the top. So I'm going to press the T key to get the tools panel and go to create, and I'm going to create a cube. And this cube will be our first tooth. I'm going to scale it so it's a little bit flatter and a little bit narrower. And then I'm going to insert an edge loop here in the middle. Let me now add a modifier, subsurface modifier. There we go. Now we're just beginning to see the shape of the tooth here. So let's say I'm going to pull that out. Something like that. And maybe the center of the tooth should bend out a bit. Kind of like that. So that's going to be our front tooth. And maybe I'll bring this in just a little bit. Okay. So now that I've got that, I want to smooth it. So under the Tools tab, I just want to click on Smooth. Alright, so there we have our first tooth. Let's take it up into place. Alright. It's a little big there. Awkwardly placed, but you get the idea. Now we're going to take this tooth, and this will be the first tooth that we'll begin to make a few of the others off of. So now that I've got that first tooth, I can use that tooth to duplicate and work on the next one. So the next incisor is just a little smaller. It's pretty much the same shape, but it's just a little smaller than the first. So I'll scale that down just a hair. And then for the next tooth, I'm going to duplicate that and move it over. For the next tooth, that canine is a little different. It's a little more pointed. So I'm going to scale this face down. And maybe I'll even, I don't know, scale this up just a bit, make it a little bit longer. And yet a little narrower. Alright, so now I'm going to move these into place now that I've got them pretty much the way I want them. So it really just needs a little bit of rotation and a little bit of moving. Okay, so now that we've got those in place, let's work on the premolar and molars. For this, I'm going to begin a whole new object, and once again, it's just going to be a cube. But this time, we need a couple more edge loops here. So I'm going to insert an edge loop here, and maybe insert an edge loop like this. And I'm probably going to need one here as well. And now let's go ahead and add a subdivision modifier here so we can see it smoothed, and I'll turn on smoothed here. And for this, I think all I really need to do is just take that center point and maybe just, actually maybe all of these around here, these points here, and just pull them down a bit. And maybe even take these 4 points and move them up a bit. And that's all we really need. This is, you know, a cartoony character. I'm not going to get too involved here. And maybe I'll just scale these in just a bit. So that's what we get for our premolar slash molar here. Alright, so now what we need to do, the great thing about this is all we need to do is just duplicate this for the molars now. So now all we really need to do is just mirror our objects. So what I want to do is combine all of these teeth into one object, or join them. So selecting them all and press Ctrl J, so they're all one object. The next thing I want to do is make sure that this pivot point for this object is in the center of the grid. So what I can do is, I think we can put the cursor in the center and then change the origin over here under the Tools tab. We can set the origin to be at 3D cursor. So now that the pivot point is down at the cursor in the center of the grid, the last thing we need to do is just make sure there isn't any rotation applied to the object. So if I select that teeth object and press the N key on the keyboard, I can look at the rotations of that object, and I see that there's some rotations applied. So what I need to do is just zero these out. So what I can do is press Ctrl A and apply the rotations here. Now that I've done that, these are zeroed out. And so when I mirror the object, so if I select the object, select the teeth, and let's add a modifier mirror. Now you can see they're mirroring across along the x-axis around that center pivot, which is down here in the center of the grid. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to go ahead and apply this. There we go. So now that is all one object. And let's call this teeth top. And now let's mirror it again, but this time along the z-axis. So I select the teeth, add a mirror modifier. Now it doesn't look like anything's really going on, but what I'm going to do is change it to the z-axis, turn off X, and there are my new teeth. Now all I need to do is select these objects with the L key, and I'm going to split these out to be their own object. There we go. P selection. And now we should have the top teeth and the bottom teeth. Let me call these teeth bottom. So now I'll set the origin back to the geometry of the object. And maybe move these back into the gums. So of course the bottom teeth are a little bit different than the top teeth. These front incisors aren't so big. So I can go in and just in face mode scale these down just a bit. Now usually the bottom teeth are a little bit farther back than the top teeth. unless you've got a character that really requires that underbite thing. But there you go. That is how to create teeth for your cartoony character. Thanks for watching. Till next time.